This morning, we are delighted and blessed to welcome Reverend Joshua Clark as he shares a message with us. A little bit about Joshua is that he serves as the spiritual life director at Life Northwestern PA, where he offers compassionate hospice and spiritual care to senior adults. He is also a licensed chaplain with the Christian Missionary Alliance, the Western PA district. Recently, Joshua has been a part of our team right here at First Alliance Church that launched a Planted class on Sunday morning, which meets at 9:30 a.m. and it's geared and designed specifically for Gen X and millennials. So we are very, very grateful to have Joshua with us this morning. So let's give a warm welcome to Joshua.
Thank you, Pastor Chen. Thank you. It's good to see all of y'all this morning. My name's Joshua. Served for 13 years in Southwest Nebraska as a pastor. And bit of trivia, if you guys are ever playing, Did You Know? Or Two Truths and a Lie. Yeah, or Two Lies and a Truth, one of the two. Is I gave my very first sermon in this church on Thanksgiving Eve, 2010. First time someone ever trusted me enough to come up here and say something of some kind of significance and importance. And I'm still earning people's trust that way. So thank you very much. It's good to be up here and share with you. If you've been following along with us for the past several Sundays, we are in a series called Glory and Dominion, unpacking Jesus' address to the 7 churches in the first few chapters of Revelation. And at the heart of this series is the significance of Jesus, the Christ, who has the glory and dominion over the world and through the church. Jesus is sending a message through John to 7 churches in Asia Minor. Minor. Pause for a second. We don't have any of those churches, or those letters. None of those letters exist. We have a summary of the message of what that letter looked like. Trust me, when you write a letter, you write more than a paragraph. So there are 7 letters somewhere. I mean, they probably burned up in a library somewhere. But 7 letters, and we have a summary of them right here through John. And while these messages are specific to those particular churches, those particular communities, there are also universal themes for all churches for all time. Once again, for all churches for all time. How many churches are meeting right now in Erie proper? How many churches? What do you think, 50, 60, 70, 100? Now just multiply that. Multiply that out to the United States. Multiply that out to the world. How many churches are meeting right now at this time? For all churches, for all time. A message that can be applied. I don't know, this makes me pause. Think about a letter that was written a little under 2,000 years ago. Has valuable insight that is beneficial for us today here gathering. Not only us here today gathering, but other churches gathering today. So all churches for all time. FAC is one of many communities all around the world gathering to worship, to know, and to follow God. What's even more mind-boggling is that what causes us to gather? What is the chief motivation? Why are you sitting here right now? I don't know if you ask yourself that. Sometimes I do. Why am I here? Jesus, his life, his death, his resurrection, his ascension. That is the common denominator. That is the purpose. That is the motivation. That is the reason why churches all around the world, locally, internationally, everywhere gather. Because of Jesus. That has to marinate for a little bit. The significance of that It's like a steak that needs to sit in a great marinade for like 24 hours to really soak up all of that flavor. You know what else we have in common? Besides the purpose, the reason we gather, is what fills those churches. The what should be the who fills those churches. All around the world, throughout history, churches are full of people. And you know what people have in common? They are people. There is a saying that sat on my desk at the church that I served at before I came to Erie, and it said, people are always peopling. I made a verb out of people. I call it peopling, because people well. And what that means is that people are complicated. People have layers. People have things they do really, really well, and you want to highlight, and you want to put on a shelf, and you want to be like, look at me. People also have contradictions. People also struggle. People also have fears, anxiety, pain. People lie. People cheat. Good people lie. Good people cheat. Good people get scared. Bad people do really good things. It's what people have in common. They people well. And the more I reflect on people, specifically people in the church, people in this church and people in all churches, the more I see the messages, the letters that Jesus gave to John, that John gave to these 7 churches, I see them as assessments of churches. Right? Assessments that churches can go through who are confronted by various different things that go on in the lifespan of a church and a church community. Take, for instance, Ephesus, the first church that we talked about. They had lost their first love. They had lost sight of love the Lord your God with all your might, with all your heart, with all your soul, and love your neighbor as yourself. Or the command to love. No one has greater love than this, to lay down one's life for one's friend. We are here to love Christ. We are called to love Christ. We are called to never let him go. And we lose sight of that. All of us do. Churches do, and individually, right? We get bogged down by the day-to-day tasks. We get angry, we get frustrated, we go through these things, and we can lose sight of it, and we can go off the rails because we are people. That's a great message. It's a great message for a church a little under 2,000 years ago, and it's a great message for us as a church today. Let the main thing be the main thing, as Ben said. If you look at Smyrna, a church facing adversity, hardship, slander, is encouraged to persevere. Keep the faith through the testing and the trials. Don't lose heart because you're not alone. Rather, as God will tell Joshua, be strong and courageous. Do not be frightened or dismayed, for the Lord your God is with you wherever you go. Faith, the faith that you have, the trust that you give, doesn't mean the absence of suffering or tests. Who of us as people haven't faced, either individually or as a church, trials, adversity, hardship? If you've been alive long enough, it happens. Once I was a part of a committee. I sat on what's called the LONCC, the Licensing, Ordination, Consecration Committee. And we had to hear the terrible news that one of our pastors died suddenly. Adversity for a church. Hardship for a church. Persevere. A great timeless message that Jesus is delivering to the church in Smyrna. You're not alone. You're not alone. If anything, it's a promise that we hear in the very, very beginning of the Gospels. For Jesus, his name is Emmanuel, God with you, God with me, God with us. that he is here with us. Draw near because he is near. I am here. Not I personally, I as in capital I, not lowercase I, Joshua, I. I mean, I am here with you, but not as, he is here. Great message. Great reminder. And we forget, we lose sight. We don't want to persevere. We get angry. We get sad. We get frustrated. We get disappointed. One of the great reliefs I ever had was someone giving me permission to look at God and say, I'm disappointed, Lord. Sometimes I'm disappointed in you. I didn't think it was going to turn out this way. How are you going to go do me like that? He's God. He can handle my disappointment. He can handle your disappointment. And he can come to you tenderly and be with you and say, persevere, Joshua. I know. It's hard. It's hard. It's hard being hung up on a cross when all your people walk away. It feels lonely. It does. I feel you. I feel you. I'm with you. A message for the church there at that time, and for churches for all time, for all churches. And so now we get to the third church. That was the first two. 3, there's 7. Pergamum. They're also facing something that we as people face all the time. Compromise. The temptation, the test to compromise, right? Falling for the lie. Satan as the father of lies. That's what John in the Gospel of John will call Satan, the father of lies. When he lies, this is coming from the Gospel in John, when he lies, he speaks according to his own nature. It's the only power that Satan has. The only power that Satan has is to lie. Think about that. For he is a liar and the father of lies. Lies that if we give strength to, if we give power to, if we give power to his lies, lies that impact our life. Lies that sound good, lies that feel good, lies that look good, but lies that are ultimately not good. That's what a lie is, right? Kind of feels good, kind of like, I don't know. I kind of want to do that. I'm going to convince myself that it's going to be a good thing. And then you get through on the other side of the lie and you're like, that's a terrible thing. I don't know why I believe that. And so this morning I want to reread Revelation as we dive deeper into Pergamum and the temptation, the test of compromise. This is what John receives, that he writes, that the angel talks to John, and then he writes, as the angel writes to the church in Pergamum. And to the angel of the church in Pergamum, this is your message, paraphrase. There are the words of him who has the sharp two-edged sword. I know where you are living, where Satan's throne is. Yet you are holding fast to my name, and you did not deny your faith in me, even in the days of Antipas, my witness, my faithful one, the one who was killed among you, where Satan lives. But I have a few things against you. You have some there who hold fast to the teaching of Balaam, who taught Balak to put a stumbling block before the people of Israel so that they would eat food sacrificed to idols and practice fornication. So you also have some who hold to the teaching of the Nicolaitans. Repent then, if not, I will come to you soon and make war against them with the sword of my mouth. Let anyone who has an ear listen to what the Spirit is saying to the churches. To everyone who conquers, I will give some of the hidden manna, and I will give a white stone. And on that white stone is written a new name that no one knows except the one who receives it. I just had to pause a second and let his words sink in. As usual, I want to give a little context to Pergamum. It makes this message a little bit more poignant because the letter was to this specific church, this specific community located in the west coast of modern day Turkey, a little bit north of the current city, which is called Izmir. A couple of distinguishing things about Pergamum that we should keep in mind as we're looking at this passage. This is the first city in all of Asia Minor on the east side of the Roman Empire that will build a temple towards emperor worship. The emperor of Rome is the one who brings the good news. Does that sound familiar to you? The emperor of Rome is the one who brings the good news. It's written on a stone. I think it's towards Emperor Augustus, one of the emperors. But he is the bringer of good news. Why does that sound familiar? Because in the Gospel of Mark, we worship, we follow someone who brings the good news. Who is the good news? Do you see how one undercuts the other? How they both can exist in relationship together? There's tension. There's tension there. And so in this city, in Pergamum, there is a temple, a huge visual, in-your-face representation of what matters to the people of Pergamum. The emperor. Allegiance to the emperor. Pledge allegiance to the emperor is what Pergamum is saying. If that pledge allegiance rings a bell to you, it's on purpose. And so they have this huge temple, and they're asking for total allegiance of their people to the emperor. And that's not it. There's also a statue in Pergamum. Not today, but there was. And this statue was of a deity called Asclepius. Asclepius, in his hand, held a staff, and on that staff, a snake, a literal snake, intertwined around it. So you have this massive statue that sits in the town that everyone can see, and on this staff is a snake. That snake represents healing. If that sounds familiar to you, how many of you wear a Life Alert bracelet right now? How many of you guys have any Life Alert, any diabetics, type 1 diabetics, anybody with? Look at your Life Alert bracelet. Is there two snakes wrapped around a staff thingy-mabobber? That's like real technical thingy-mabobber, right? That's where that comes from. That's where that comes from. Your Life Alert bracelet comes from the staff of Asclepius. The staff of, he was the patron deity of healing. He brought healing to people who came and worshiped at the temple, sacrificed and all other kinds of things. And so quite literally, there is a snake in Pergamum. So when they hear this letter that Satan, right? I know where you are living, where Satan's throne is. The Christians at that time already were drawing the connection between serpent, snake, and Satan. Right? That was an early connection from Genesis. So they would hear these words and they would see that image and they would go, oh, yes. Yes, Satan is prominent in our midst, literally prominent in our midst. A daily reminder that we have pressure pushing down on us. Pressure, right? Making its presence felt in our daily life. And on top of that, Pergamum embraced being a Roman city. Right? They had labor unions that had patron gods. They had all kinds of other temples that were built, that people worshiped at, that people frequented daily. And in the middle of that, Rome, at this point in time, Rome is the center of the known world. Rome provides protection, provides safety, provides order, provides food, water, infrastructure. Everybody wants to get to Rome. Everybody. I mean, like if Rome didn't conquer you, which they did, everybody wants to get there. Everybody wants to be there because that stuff is invited. That stuff is a part of participating in Rome. But Rome required something of you. Allegiance, fidelity, participation. Because within those three things, it meant continued stability, continued growth for the empire. And so here is this group of Christians, right? This group of Christians who are gathering to worship Jesus, and there is all of this pressure to conform, to compromise, to give allegiance, to participate in something that is a lie, that is actually, in the end, not good. But for most of the people around there, felt good, looked good, sounded good. And so Jesus says, he's coming, right? Well, not he's coming, he is the one who holds the sharp two-edged sword. Second time that John's repeated this same image of Jesus. First time is chapter 1, verse 16. But in this, Jesus judges. This sword represents judgment. But when he comes with judgment, he first comes with a word of encouragement. Did you hear the word of encouragement in the beginning of the letter? You are holding fast to my name. You have not denied your faith, even in the time of persecution, death. Like, people die. Person died, and you have remained strong. So encouragement. Yet, there is correction. Let me ask you this as a first takeaway as we ponder this. What does it look like to welcome Jesus' judgment? As a Christ follower, what does it look like to welcome his judgment into your life? Or maybe this, do you welcome his judgment upon you? What does judgment look like? Jesus lifts up, he encourages, and Jesus points out, stay the course. He points out correction. Correction to the life, the church, the people in the church. He points out correction so that they may be better followers of Jesus, so that their life may bear greater witness to the people around them. Who doesn't want to be corrected in that way? If you're going the wrong route, do you not want to be corrected? Do you not want someone to come to you and say, dude, stop. Don't go that way. No, don't believe that lie. No bueno. Bad. Do you hear the words of this judgment as condemnation? As in, you're no good? Or do you hear it as correction? You can be better. I've got you, but be careful. Also, Spanish, cuidado. Be careful. How do you hear it? The two-edged sword. Think of Paul as he writes to the church in Ephesus. Same church, different letter. Did you guys see that? If you guys had a board at home and you put your Bible on there and you get the strings and the pins and you're like, look at all these connections. So Paul writes a letter to the church in Ephesus. John had a message for Ephesus. In Paul's letter to the church of Ephesus, he says this, but speaking the truth, to double-edged sword, the truth in love, double-edged sword, the truth in love, we must grow up. We must grow up. We must learn. We must be corrected. We must become more. We must become greater. There is potential in all of us to bear witness to the glory and the dominion of Jesus. We must grow up in every way into him who is the head, into Christ, for whom the whole body, joined and knit together by every ligament with which it is equipped, as each part is working properly, promotes the body's growth in building itself up in love. Paul's letter to Ephesus, the two-edged sword. The judgment is for our benefit, is for our growth. What does it look like to welcome Jesus' judgment into our life? Judge me. Now, I say that. Did you know God offers us to judge him? Test me. Test and know that I am good. It's God's words. He's open to being tested. He's open to being judged. Are we open to his judgment upon us so that we may know that he is good? So we may know his glory, his dominion. But what are they being judged for? What are they being judged about? The church in Pergamum represents, right, a community that's on the precipice of compromise. On the one hand, they hold fast to this idea that Jesus, this belief that Jesus as Lord, he is king, right? He is king and he has glory and he has dominion. But the church in doing this is also upsetting the cultural, the civic, the historical apple cart of the Roman way, right? So every time they lean into Jesus as king, they're upsetting the apple cart in which the emperor is king. They're making unrest. And in that unrest, it's making people uncomfortable. And we humans as people don't like to be uncomfortable. It's part of being a human being. We like safety, we like security, we like everything to be known. I like that. I won't give that to you. I won't judge you that way. I'll judge myself. That's how I like to be. I love things that are safe, secure, structured, and known. It's my baggage. You don't have to carry my baggage. You have to carry your baggage. I will carry mine. It's heavy enough for me alone. But compromise comes within that. Compromise. Because now there's risk. Right? There's real risk in following Jesus. We read in Smyrna, right? Faith doesn't mean that we will be absent of struggle. It doesn't mean absent of hardship. It doesn't mean absent of adversity. It doesn't mean absent of pain and sadness and anger. It does not mean absence of that. It means we are not alone in it, not the absence of. And so there's real consequence to holding fast to your faith. Loss of status, loss of job, loss of trade, an outcast. Under this kind of pressure, there is a temptation to compromise. And who doesn't want to compromise? Can I be honest with you guys, since I have your attention? Compromise is around us all the time. It's hard to follow Jesus. It's hard to follow Jesus. And so when someone like Balaam, that's the picture we have, Balaam comes to the Israelites and he tempts them to walk away, or he tempts them to engage in practices that are sort of lies. They're sort of lies. They're lies. They're like half-truth lies. So they're lies that feel really good and look really good and sound really good, but they're ultimately not good. And so Balaam does this, and Balaam wins, and the Israelites follow him. And the Israelites, I love this idea of fornication. So think of fornication literally, but also think of it metaphorically, because within Scripture, fornication has dual meaning. It can have literal physicalness, but it also means that we're getting in bed with other gods. We're taking not gods and we're making them God. So we take all the not gods, we put them on our pedestal and make them God. And so the picture is a vivid picture, right? It's a vivid picture. It's an unsettling picture. Fornication, unsettling, vivid, makes us squirm a little bit when we think about it. It's uncomfortable. And so Balaam, the picture of Balaam, there's also another picture of Balaam. Do you know how Balaam dies in Numbers 31? By sword. So when Jesus comes and he says, I will make war against them with my sword. It's similar. Balaam dies the same way, by the sword. What's more real for the church in Pergamum is the Nicolaitans, because their teaching helps us in our compromise. Because the Nicolaitans are dualists, meaning they like to separate the mind, the body, and the spirit. So what the body does doesn't matter because the spirit, the mind, knows what the truth is. It doesn't matter what you do with your body. It doesn't matter what you do in the physical. Because your mind, your heart knows Jesus. And that's good enough. Have you ever heard that? A subtle lie? It doesn't matter. Jesus, it's okay. You know Jesus in your heart. So go, it's okay. It's okay to lie at work. It's okay to lie on your taxes. It's okay. Jesus knows your heart. I don't know. I think Jesus does know our heart. And I think that knowledge of our heart wants to come in with a double-edged sword, truth and love, and make us better. Make us more, when I say better, more like him better. Not like better as in like shooting hoops better, although I wouldn't mind being better at shooting hoops. But better as in better. And here's what's underneath that, the compromise. Because this is my question to you. Where's the temptation for you to compromise? I can't answer what compromise looks like for you. I can answer what it looks like for me, and I know where it is. Jesus has made me aware of it. But what does compromise look for you? What is compromising on your virtues, your values, the things that are near and dear to your heart? What does that compromise look like so that you can feel safe, that you can feel secure, you can feel, I don't know, welcomed, wanted, whatever it is? Where does that compromise exist for you? Finally, you put those two things together. Is he enough? Is Jesus enough? He ends this letter to everyone who conquers. Is Jesus enough for you? To everyone who conquers. Is he enough? Is he? Again, I can't answer that for you. Is he enough? I think that's one of the more difficult questions because in my honest moments, in my honest prayer times, I question myself. Jesus, I want to say, Jesus, you are enough. But man, it's hard because I'd really like a job. I'd really like a job that I can pay my mortgage. And I'd really like it to give me less gray. If you guys can see, I'm not that old. The gray on me makes me look older. Because I want to answer that. Jesus, you're enough. I'm good. I'm good. I invite your judgment into me. I'm good. I'm not going to compromise. I'm good. You're enough. You're enough. Your glory, your dominion is enough. Jesus answers that idea of being enough, right? He talks about finding the manna, right? To the one who conquers, to the one who I am enough, I give some of my hidden bread. That bread, Gospel of John, chapter 6, the manna that gives us life, right? The manna that is enough. The hidden manna because it's not literal manna, it might be literal, but it's not always literal, but it's enough, that he is enough. Sometimes it shows up in a very literal, very physical, very real manner. Sometimes you have to trust and you cannot see and you do not know. And it is very uncertain, but it is there and it is enough. Is Jesus enough? When he gives us the white stone, he tells us that he knows us by name. If you look back and you read in John, the Gospel of John, chapter 10, a very powerful verse when it comes to our names being written. It says this: the one who enters by the gate is the shepherd of the sheep. The gatekeeper opens the gate for him, and the sheep hear his voice. And on that white stone is written a new name that no one knows except the one who receives it. The sheep hear his voice. He calls his own sheep by name and leads them out. He calls his own sheep by name and leads them out. A new name that no one knows except the one who receives it. He calls his sheep by name and leads them out. Is he enough? Is Jesus enough? Our temptation to compromise, our resistance for judgment comes back to the place where we are unsure if Jesus is enough for us. Is Jesus enough for you? Is Jesus enough for me? Powerful message, powerful place. The letter to the church in Pergamum leaves us feeling anxious, hopeful, wondering, curious, strengthened. Can leave us in all of those places. But let me leave you with this. What does it look like to welcome Jesus' judgment upon your life that you may bear witness to the glory and the dominion of Jesus? What does it look like to go through your life and find out where through lies your life can be compromised? What does it look like when Jesus is enough? I cannot answer those questions for you. They're open-ended questions, personal to you as an individual and personal to the church as a collective whole, as a body. Powerful, humbling. Yet for me, they're ones that draw me in and draw me near. May they do the same for you as well this Sunday. Let me close with this benediction as I leave you like a hanging Chad with questions to wrestle with throughout the week. May you be blessed, the one who reads aloud the words, Revelation chapter 1, verse 3 of this prophecy. May you be blessed, you who hear and take it to heart, that which is written in it, this day, tomorrow, and forevermore. May you be blessed. Thank you for letting me share with you this morning. Have a great Sunday. Have a great week.